everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Andrea. It's nice to have you guys here. Today I have another back to school video. I'm not sure how long these are going to go, like how many of them they're going to be, but when I asked on Instagram, and I think I asked in the comments as well on one of the previous videos, you guys were giving me some great topics and great suggestions, so I'm going to try to cover as many of them as possible. One of them was asking about how I manage and fit in time for self-care in amongst a busy study schedule, and I thought that was a really good topic. I feel like self-care is definitely something that I've gotten better at over the last couple of years and something that I've taken a lot more seriously than I have in the past, but it's definitely something that you have to be thinking consciously about. It's really hard to just fit it in the moment. So I've got eight things to help you with this. So diving right in, the first tip is be proactive. I'm looking at my phone, by the way. Plan ahead and have routines in place before the school year starts. So if you wait until you're 3 weeks, 2 months, whatever, into the semester, you get to midterms, for example, and everything starts to get really crazy and everything starts to kind of fall apart, you know, the wheels are coming off the wagon kind of a feeling. If you don't already have structures in place, doing self-care and engaging in self-care is going to feel like a task, like just another chore on your list. It's not going to really be as effective. So paying attention to the other tips that I'm going to give you, employing those from the start, knowing what works for you, knowing what doesn't, and just having your lists and your kind of plan in mind for when those moments hit is what's going to help you. Don't think self-care is something you can think about later. Because it's really not. Number 2, make a list. Write down all of your favorite self-care activities and categorize them by mood and or by budget. When that way, when things start to get stressful, you've got that pre-made list you can turn to. If you bullet journal, put a collection in your bullet journal. If you have a hard copy planner, find a page in the notes section, either in the front or the back, depending on the planner you use, and create a dedicated list there. If you are a digital person, create a note or something in one of the apps that you use, but have a list. I like to kind of break mine down by both time, like time of day, time of the week. There's things that are more like my weekend self-care things, and there's things that are like my daily or day-to-day things. Maybe I don't do them every day, but they are like a quick 5-minute middle of the day if I just need that break kind of a thing. Basically, there's stuff I can turn to no matter what time of day, no matter what time of the week or the month or the year, if it's summer versus winter, and no matter how much money I have. So I've got some things that cost a little bit more and some things that are totally free. So making a list and having them kind of tagged or itemized is a really good idea. Another fun thing that you can do, I've never done this because I've never really needed to, but one thing you could do is make a list of, write down on little slips of paper just different self-care activities, taking a bubble bath, light a candle, read a book for an hour, and put those all into a jar. If you're someone who struggles with making a decision, this might be a really good idea for you. So then when you feel like, okay, I really need something, you can just pull it out. And I think if all of your things are roughly a budget you can afford and roughly a time frame that you're able to kind of give up, so like read for an hour or take an hour-long bath or go for an hour walk. If you know that you typically have like blocks of time in an hour or 30 minutes, writing down things that you can do in that amount of time, that way you take all the decision making out of it, you just pull things out of a jar, and whatever you pull out, that's what you do. So that's just one extra little bonus tip for you guys. Number 3, kind of related to that, think big and think small. So self-care can be bigger, more expensive things like getting a regular massage, or for me, I get facials on average once a month every 4 to 5 weeks. But self-care can also be smaller things like taking a bath, going for a walk in the park or around your neighborhood, lighting a candle, reading a book for an hour. There's lots of things that are either super cheap or completely free. So think of the big things that are like the kind of super indulgent splurges and have a couple of those on your list, because you will need those at least once or twice a year But also think of the small little things that you can do as many times as you need to do. And if that ends up being every single day, you can afford to do that because it's free or it costs almost nothing. So thinking big and thinking small is really important here. Number 4, self-care can and probably should be a constant activity. Don't make it just a one-off special thing that you only do when things get super, super, super stressful. I find that by engaging in self-care, engaging in a consistent self-care routine keeps things from getting super, 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 super stressful. Number 5, kind of going along with that, another thing that has worked really well for me is learn how to read the signs. When I first started grad school, panic attacks would sneak up on me almost from out of nowhere, and I'd just be in the car driving to campus sobbing hysterically, which is not very safe, by the way. But now, as I progressed through grad school, that by the way was my first master's degree, so that was back in 2005, 2006. So more than 10 years ago. Fast forward 10 years, as we got towards the end of my PhD, things were definitely stressful, but I had enough self-awareness. I was in therapy, I was doing self-care, so I was paying attention in a lot of different ways, that I was able to see the signs and read the signals and know, okay, I'm starting to feel anxious. And so I could recognize my anxiety when it was still at like a 3 or a 4 on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being full-blown hyperventilating, hysterical sobbing, panic attack. So I could kind of sense them when they were still starting, but not anywhere near the crisis point. And so for most of the time, not every time, and you do have to remember that, sometimes the panic attacks, the anxiety attacks are almost unavoidable. But most of the time, if you can recognize the signals and recognize what is causing this anxiety, and if you can then deploy some self-care, it can bring those levels back down. I kind of would learn the signals and recognize, okay, I need to just stop. I need to stop what I'm doing. I need to go lay down, wrap myself in a blanket, get something comforting to drink. If I was feeling hot, something iced was really nice, which the heat usually does aggravate my anxiety. Learning to recognize the signs and be like, okay, I need to step away from the activity that is causing the anxiety, go calm down, and then figure out if I can come back to this. Now, I know some of you are thinking, okay, that's great, Andrea, but I can't just go to bed for the rest of the afternoon every time I start to feel anxious at 1 o'clock. No, you can't. But you can give yourself a 30-minute break. You can give yourself 30 minutes to go lay down, go sit, go for a walk outside, anything to put some distance between you and whatever is causing the anxiety. So if that's trying to get your methods section in the paper worked out, or if that's feeling like you've read and reread the same paragraph 5 times and you're still not understanding what that scholar is saying. Certain things can cause your anxiety, and the more you focus on it and the more you try to work through it and fix it, the worse your anxiety gets. Whereas if you can learn to recognize, okay, this is starting to really freak me out, I'm getting really anxious, my shoulders are up to my ears, and I'm a tense ball of energy. When you can recognize those signs, even as little as 15 minutes of just walking around, getting outside for a few minutes, or go and lay down, sometimes going and watching a quick 10 or 15 minute YouTube video that's, about someone's Sephora haul or something. It's so different from the task I'm working on that it causes a disconnect. And so part of anxiety and stress is your brain on this repetitive loop, stressing and being anxious about whatever it is you're working on or whatever it is that's coming up. So anything you can do to break that loop, to kind of get that to stop and cause a disconnect in that anxious thinking, is going to help you. And believe me, there were times during my dissertation where I was getting up, for 15 minutes every hour because I couldn't stay focused for more than 45 minutes at a time. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 1 hour every 4 hours, however you break it up. The more you're working on one task, the more anxious you're going to get. So having self-care routines, and a lot of mine are things I can do in 5 minutes. So it's leaning back in my chair, spritzing my face with my favorite Caudalie Beauty Elixir facial spray. I love that one because it's got, I think, like a little bit of peppermint and lavender and some other herbs and oils, and so it's got a really nice smell that kind of perks me up. Or any other aromatherapy oil that you like, kind of putting that on your pulse points and then just leaning back in your chair and closing your eyes for 5 minutes during a Pomodoro break. That can be enough. Learning how to read the signs of your anxiety and of your stress and learning when to stop, whether it's for 5 minutes or for an hour, or if things are really bad. And there were times, not every single day, but sometimes once every week or so, where usually by Thursday or Friday, everything felt like it was hitting the fan and I just couldn't think, and I would get to like an 8, 9, even 10 on the scale of panic attacks and just have to say, okay, I'm done for the day. This usually happened if I'd been really productive in the morning and gotten a lot done and was really doing a lot of heavy lifting mentally. By the afternoon, I would be just completely shot, and I would have to go literally put myself to bed and binge watch something on Netflix. So learn how to read those signs. It takes time, and you won't be perfect at it right away, but you will get there. The more you practice kind of learning how to read your body and your mind and figure out what is triggering certain anxiety and stress and panic attacks, you will get better at recognizing that as time goes on. Number 6, be intentional with your self-care. So if you feel like you want to lay in bed and watch Netflix, make that an intentional self-care choice. Figure out, work things out on your schedule, find the time to clear that, and then do it. Don't just disregard work and then feel guilty about it. I had a lot of Netflix afternoons. I had a few Netflix days on the weekends. If that is something that honestly makes you feel better, and for me it does, to just mentally check out and binge watch a TV show, watch 5 or 6 hours and get to the point where Netflix kind of gives you that prompt, like, click here to prove you're still alive. That's okay, and sometimes you need that. Like, if that works for you, then that works for you, and do that. It's fine, but be intentional with it. Don't find that you're doing that every day all week long, and then you get to Friday and you've done no work and now you're starting to feel really stressed. Listen to your body, listen to your mind. If your mind is saying a bath really sounds good right now, then do that. And I usually have ways of looking at my schedule and looking at all my tasks and kind of planning things out and kind of knowing, okay, this is gonna be a busy week. This is why I like planning in my bullet journal on Sundays or first thing Monday morning. If I'm looking at my schedule and I'm seeing, okay, this is gonna be a busy week. So like, as I'm filming this, it's the day before back to school week for me starts. So tomorrow on Monday, I have my all-day faculty meeting. Then Tuesday and Wednesday are going to be finishing up with class prep and getting my Blackboard shells all in order and getting ready to kind of actually meet the students. Thursday is the first day. I only have 2 classes, but that's still gonna be a lot because it's been all summer, I haven't been in classroom, and I haven't taught 2 classes back to back in person. Oh crap. It's been a while. I'm just realizing this now because I've been teaching online. I've only taught in person in the last like 3 years. I've only taught in person during summer school, and then this last semester was a condensed session, but those are all just 1 classes. I don't teach 2 classes. So I haven't taught in person 2 classes in a while. So yeah, this week is going to be a bit exhausting. So when I sit down to plan tonight or tomorrow, I'm going to leave a good chunk of Friday open. I still have work that I will need to do on Friday, but I'm going to be leaving a good probably 2 hours to kind of stop work early, stop work at like 3 or 4 instead of 5 or 6, and just relax for the rest of the day. By being intentional in your self-care and by monitoring your schedule, if you're looking at your week and realizing this is gonna be a really busy week, I'm gonna maybe give myself an extra hour to relax on Friday. If you can have a late start that day, or end your work week early and kick off work, an hour before you usually do. That can be really good. Finding time to plan in your self-care and be really intentional about it, especially if it's something that takes more than 15 minutes. Being intentional about those longer self-care activities is really important. That way you can enjoy it and not feel guilty that you're not working. Number 7, give yourself time off, at least one day a week. I do not advocate working 7 days a week. You need time off, and at least a couple weeks a year. And I know this is really hard for grad students and undergrads as well. Undergrads typically don't have quite the same workload as grad students and quite the same pressure, but a lot of undergrads are still doing an internship or working 1 or 2 part-time jobs over the summer when they're not in school, so that they don't have to work as much during the school year. So it's hard to take time, like take summer, the 3 months completely off. Most of us work throughout the summer, so we are working all year long. But unlike a kind of 9-to-5 corporate job where you're allowed to take off, 3 weeks a year worth of vacation time, we're not as aware or conscious of doing that. So finding at least a couple weeks a year and making sure that and it doesn't have to all be in a row. It can be like a few days over the holidays and a few days here, a few days there, but being conscious about that and giving yourself 2 weeks worth of time off every year where it is truly time off. So I've been doing a lot of work throughout the summer, but when Tamsin was here for those 2 weeks, I did nothing. I really did give myself that time off. So, and then generally during the year, sometimes I give myself all day Saturday. Some days I can't do that because I've got work to do. Sundays is kind of a relaxed day, but it's also when I do a lot of my chores and stuff. Both days I do try to let myself sleep in at least an hour, and I do try to make sure that between the 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, I am resting somehow, if that makes sense. So I might do a tiny bit of work on Sundays. Saturdays I try to have pretty well off. The way that I like it is Saturdays are completely off. I can do whatever I want. Sundays are my brunch with my mom, grocery shopping, doing laundry, doing cleaning, meal prep for the week if I want to cook something to have leftovers, all of that sort of thing. I feel like I do have a definitive weekend and end of week routine between Saturday and Sunday, so that when Monday arrives, it does feel like a new week. When you work Monday through Sunday, then you get to the following Monday and that's when your weeks start to all blur together. And when time starts running together like that, that's when stress starts to really creep up. So finding at least a couple hours a day in the evening after you've had dinner and after you've stopped working for the day, having at least 1 day a week and having at least a couple weeks a year is, I think, kind of the minimum of what you should be giving yourself in terms of time off to completely decompress. What you never want to have happen is your stress levels are constantly getting so high that you're never bringing them below a 5 each day, because then if you're never getting them back down, if you're never getting back down all the way to 0, to completely stress-free, okay, 1, if you're never getting down to 1, because I don't know that any of us are ever completely stress-free, but I can get down to a 1 where like, okay, I know there's stuff that's going on, but it'll get done, it'll be fine, I'll think about it tomorrow. To me, like, that's like a 1. And if you never get back down to a 1, then you are increasing your chances of spending more time at like a 7, 8, 9, or even reaching a 10. Which none of us want to be at a 10 on that scale. We really don't. And then to wrap this up, because this has gotten a bit long, but I did want to make sure I was covering everything. Number 8, be kind to yourself and remember that you are doing the best that you can. I think a huge part of self-care is just being kind to yourself and recognizing that you are doing your best and you can't do any better than that. There will always be things that will stress you out, so learning how to pick your battles and learning what's worth getting more stressed out about, if that makes sense, and what's not worth it at all, and what you should just kind of let it go. There's a lot of things you have no control over, so focus on the things that you can control. If you know you're not doing your best, then acknowledge that and examine, okay, what can I do that will make me feel like I'm doing my best? But at the end of it all, be kind to yourself, because sometimes we will make ourselves think that we're not doing our best and really we are. So be kind, be patient, be gentle with yourself, make a daily, regular self-care routine. If you have any questions or want to know more, please leave them in the comments. I haven't really gone into specific things that I do, because I kind of feel like that's all so unique and individualized. But if you want to know what I do, then I can try to do another video, or maybe write down a fresh new self-care routine list and put that in next month's bullet journal plan with me video or something like that. So let me know. I'd also love to know what some of your favorite self-care activities and routines are, so please put those in the comments below, and then we can all check them out, and that would be wonderful. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. I would really appreciate that. Subscribe if you are not subscribed. I've got lots more back to school content coming up, plus lots of other fun content. And yeah, thank you very much for watching this video, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.